The year was 1945, a pivotal moment in history. World War II, a conflict of unprecedented scale and savagery, had ravaged the globe for 6 long years, leaving no continent untouched by its devastation. In the Pacific, the war raged with a ferocity unmatched in any other theater, with battles that tested the limits of human endurance and resolve. From the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor to the brutal island-hopping campaigns, the Pacific War was a relentless struggle for survival, marked by intense and often desperate combat. The Japanese military, fueled by a potent mix of nationalism and militarism, fought with a tenacity that shocked the world, their resolve seemingly unbreakable. Their soldiers, often indoctrinated from a young age, believed surrender to be dishonorable, choosing death over captivity, a mindset that made them formidable adversaries. The battles for Iwo Jima and Okinawa, marked by fanatical Japanese resistance, offered a grim preview of the potential carnage of a full-scale invasion of the Japanese mainland, where every inch of ground would be fiercely contested. As American forces drew closer to the Japanese home islands, the prospect of a costly and bloody invasion loomed, with the stakes higher than ever. Intelligence estimates painted a bleak picture, predicting millions of casualties on both sides if the Allies were forced to conquer Japan by land, a scenario that filled planners with dread. The war had already claimed the lives of tens of millions, leaving a trail of devastation across Europe and Asia, with entire cities reduced to rubble. The world yearned for peace, but a negotiated settlement with Japan, which remained defiant, seemed increasingly unlikely, prolonging the agony of a war that had already gone on too long. The Pacific War was characterized by a level of brutality that shocked even seasoned veterans. The vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean became a theater of unimaginable violence and suffering. Island battles were fought with a savage intensity, often devolving into hand-to-hand combat amidst the ruins of once lush landscapes. These islands, once paradises, were transformed into hellish battlegrounds where survival was uncertain. For both sides, victory came at a terrible price. The cost was measured not just in lives lost, but in the physical and psychological scars that would haunt survivors for the rest of their lives. The Japanese military, steeped in a warrior code that glorified death in battle, fought with a ferocity that bordered on the suicidal. Their unwavering commitment to their cause made them formidable opponents. Their soldiers, often poorly equipped but fiercely determined, launched desperate banzai charges, sacrificing their lives in futile attempts to overwhelm American positions. These charges, though often doomed, were a testament to their relentless spirit. The battles for Saipan, Tarawa, and Peleliu were just a few of the many islands where American forces encountered relentless Japanese resistance, paying a heavy toll in blood for every inch of ground gained. Each battle was a grueling test of endurance and resolve. Adding to the horror were the kamikaze attacks, suicide missions in which Japanese pilots deliberately crashed their explosives-laden planes into American ships. These attacks were a desperate measure reflecting the dire situation faced by Japan. These attacks, driven by a desperate desire to inflict maximum damage, underscored the Japanese military's willingness to sacrifice everything in a futile attempt to stave off defeat. The bravery and desperation of these pilots left a lasting impact on the war's legacy. The brutality of the Pacific War was not confined to the battlefields. The scars of war extended far beyond the immediate conflict zones, affecting countless lives. Japanese treatment of prisoners of war was notoriously cruel, with Allied captives often subjected to torture, starvation, and forced labor. The suffering endured by these prisoners was a dark chapter in the history of the war. The Bataan Death March, in which thousands of American and Filipino prisoners were forced to march for days without food or water, became a symbol of Japanese wartime atrocities. This harrowing event highlighted the extreme conditions and the inhumanity faced by those captured. Even as the war in the Pacific raged, a different kind of battle was being fought far from the front lines. In top-secret laboratories across the United States, scientists raced against time to unlock the secrets of the atom. The Manhattan Project, as it was known, was a massive undertaking, a testament to human ingenuity and a harbinger of a terrifying new era in warfare. The project brought together some of the brightest minds in the world, physicists, chemists, and engineers, all working tirelessly towards a common goal, the creation of an atomic bomb. Fueled by the fear that Nazi Germany might develop the weapon first, the Manhattan Project became a top priority for the US government, which poured vast resources into the effort. Years of research and experimentation culminated in a successful test detonation on July 16, 1945, at a remote site in New Mexico. The Trinity test, as it was called, unleashed a force never before seen on Earth, instantly vaporizing the steel tower on which the bomb was placed and leaving a crater hundreds of feet wide. The atomic age had begun. In the summer of 1945, with the Allied victory in Europe secure, all eyes turned to the Pacific. The war with Japan, however, showed no signs of abating. The Japanese government, though on the verge of collapse, refused to surrender unconditionally, clinging to the belief that they could still negotiate a peace settlement that would preserve their empire. President Harry S. Truman, thrust into the role of commander-in-chief after Franklin Roosevelt's sudden death, faced an agonizing decision. The conventional bombing of Japanese cities had already inflicted heavy casualties and widespread destruction, but it had failed to break the Japanese will to fight. Now, Truman held in his hands a weapon of unimaginable power, a weapon that could potentially end the war quickly and save countless American lives. The decision to use the atomic bomb was not one that Truman took lightly. He was acutely aware of the weapon's destructive potential and the moral implications of unleashing such a force upon the world. Yet he was also keenly aware of the potential cost of a protracted war, a cost measured in the lives of American soldiers and Japanese civilians alike. Truman's advisors were divided. Some argued that the bomb should be used without warning, believing that only a demonstration of its overwhelming power would convince Japan to surrender. Others urged caution, suggesting that a demonstration over an uninhabited area might be sufficient to force Japan's hand. Ultimately, the decision rested with Truman. On July 26, 1945, he issued the Potsdam Declaration, an ultimatum to Japan demanding unconditional surrender. The declaration warned of prompt and utter destruction if Japan refused to comply. The Japanese government, clinging to the hope of a negotiated peace, ignored the ultimatum. The stage was set for the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These bombings would not only bring an end to the war but also usher in a new era of nuclear power and global politics. The world would never be the same again, as the shadow of the atomic age loomed large over the future of humanity. The decision, fraught with moral and ethical dilemmas, remains one of the most controversial and significant moments in history.